Have you ever lain in bed at night, the room quiet, the lights off, yet your mind refuses to rest? The day is over, your body is tired, but inside your head, conversations replay, worries stack on top of each other, and imagined futures feel louder than the silence around you. You turn from one side to the other, hoping sleep will come, but instead another thought arrives, and then another, as if your mind is afraid of the dark. Maybe it happens after a long day at work, when an email you sent keeps echoing in your head. Maybe it happens after a conversation you wish had gone differently. Or maybe there is no clear reason at all, just a restless sense that something is wrong, unfinished, unresolved. You try to stop thinking, but the harder you try, the louder the thoughts become. Tonight, you are not here to fight your mind. You are here to understand it. The Buddha taught that suffering does not come from thoughts themselves, but from our relationship to them. Zen Buddhism does not ask you to silence your thoughts by force. Instead, it invites you to discover something far more gentle and liberating. There is a part of you that can watch thoughts without being trapped inside them. As you listen, allow this to be a quiet space. There is nothing to achieve, nothing to fix. If these words help you rest more deeply, let them do so naturally. And if you wish to continue walking this path with guidance like this, you are warmly invited to stay connected and return whenever the mind feels heavy again. Now let us begin with the first teaching, the doorway into freedom from overthinking. The first teaching, you are not the thought. Have you ever noticed how thoughts seem to appear on their own at night? You are not inviting them, yet they arrive. A memory from 10 years ago, a worry about tomorrow morning, a sentence someone spoke that still feels sharp. You did not sit in bed and decide, now I will think about this. It simply happened. This simple observation is where Zen begins. The Buddha taught that the mind produces thoughts the way the lungs produce breath, and the heart produces beats. Thinking is not a personal failure. It is a natural function. The problem is not that thoughts arise, but that we believe every thought is who we are. In Zen, this misunderstanding is called identification. We do not just have thoughts, we become them. When a fearful thought appears, we become fear. When a regretful thought appears, we become regret. When an anxious story unfolds, we step inside it and forget that there is anything else. But the Buddha pointed to a quiet truth that changes everything. If you can observe a thought, then that thought cannot be you. Right now, pause for a moment. Notice the next thought that passes through your mind. It might be about this voice. It might be about your body. It might be about something completely unrelated. Whatever it is, notice this. You are aware of it. That awareness is not thinking, it is observing. Zen calls this the witness mind. Not a special state, not something mystical. Simply the capacity to know what is happening without being lost in it. Thoughts move. The observer remains. There was a man named Daniel who struggled deeply with overthinking at night. Every evening, as soon as his head touched the pillow, his mind would begin reviewing his life. Mistakes he made in his 20s, opportunities he missed, words he wished he could take back. His thoughts told him a story of failure, again and again, until sleep felt impossible. Daniel believed these thoughts were telling him the truth about who he was. He believed he was broken, behind, not enough. The thoughts felt so convincing because he was inside them, seeing the world through their eyes. One evening, exhausted, he attended a small Zen meditation group. He did not expect much. During the session, the teacher said something very simple. Thoughts are like sounds. You do not argue with a barking dog. You simply hear it. This confused Daniel. His thoughts did not feel like sounds. They felt personal, urgent, important. The teacher continued, "When a sound arises, do you chase it? Do you ask why it is there? Or do you notice it and let it pass?" That night, Daniel tried something new. When a thought appeared, he did not follow it. He silently noted thinking. Nothing more. He did not push it away. He did not analyze it. He simply noticed that it was there. At first, nothing changed. Thoughts kept coming. But something subtle began to shift. He was no longer drowning inside them. He was watching them from the shore. This is what the Buddha meant by right understanding, seeing things as processes, not as self. Zen uses a simple image. Imagine sitting by a river at night. Leaves float by on the surface of the water. Each leaf carries a word, a memory, a worry. You do not need to jump into the river to understand the leaves. You can sit on the bank and watch them pass. Your thoughts are the leaves. You are the one watching. The Buddha taught anatta, often translated as non-self. This does not mean you do not exist. It means that what you call self is not fixed, not solid, not identical with thoughts. Thoughts arise due to conditions, fatigue, stress, habit, memory. They arise, change, and dissolve. When overthinking happens at night, it is often because the body is tired and the mind loses its usual distractions. During the day, tasks keep thoughts moving forward. At night, the mind turns inward and old patterns surface. Zen does not ask you to make these patterns disappear. It asks you to change your posture toward them. Try this practice now, gently, without effort. As you lie or sit, bring attention to your breath. Do not change it. Simply feel it moving in and out. Now, when a thought arises, do not label it as good or bad. Do not follow the story. Simply notice a thought is present, then return to the breath. This is not suppression. Suppression is pushing thoughts away. Observation is allowing them to be without feeding them. You may notice that thoughts return quickly. That is normal. The practice is not to stop thoughts, but to remember the observer again and again. A woman named Lisa practiced this during a period of intense anxiety. Every night, her mind warned her of disasters that had not happened. Illness, financial ruin, loss. The thoughts felt protective, as if they were trying to keep her safe by staying alert. Through Zen practice, Lisa began to see something important. The thoughts were not enemies. They were conditioned responses, shaped by fear and habit. When she stopped fighting them and started observing them, they lost some of their authority. One night, a familiar, anxious thought appeared. Something bad will happen tomorrow. Instead of arguing with it, Lisa silently said, "I see you." She returned to her breath. The thought came back. Again, she observed. Slowly, the space between the thought and her identity widened. She later described it like this: "The thought was still there, but it was no longer sitting on my chest. It was like hearing a radio in another room." This is the beginning of freedom. Zen teaches that peace does not come from controlling the mind, but from not being controlled by it. When you rest as the observer, thoughts can come and go without pulling you into endless stories. If tonight you remember only one thing, let it be this: you are not required to solve your life at midnight. The mind loves to present problems when the body needs rest. You can thank the mind for its effort and choose to watch instead of engage. Before sleep, place one hand on your lower belly. Feel the rise and fall with each breath. When a thought appears, acknowledge it softly, then return to the physical sensation of breathing. This anchors awareness in the body, where thoughts have less power. You may fall asleep in the middle of this practice. That is not a failure. That is the practice working. The observer behind your thoughts is always present, even when the mind is loud, even when the night feels long. You do not need to create this observer, you only need to remember it. In the next teaching, we will explore why the mind clings so tightly to thoughts at night, and how gentle awareness can loosen that grip without force. For now, rest here, watching, breathing, allowing the night to hold you without needing to be solved. The second teaching, why the mind clings at night. Have you ever noticed that during the day your mind seems manageable, even busy but functional, yet at night it turns into something else entirely? The same thoughts that felt distant in daylight suddenly feel urgent, heavy, impossible to ignore. Problems grow larger, memories sharpen. The future feels closer and more threatening. Lying in the dark, you may wonder why your mind chooses this moment to speak the loudest. Zen begins by asking you not to judge this pattern, but to understand it. The Buddha taught that the mind clings when it feels unsafe. During the day, movement, noise, and responsibility give the mind structure. At night, when the body finally stops, the mind loses its familiar anchors. With fewer distractions, it reaches for what it knows best: thinking. This is not because something is wrong with you. It is because the mind believes its job is to protect you. Overthinking is not an enemy. It is an overworked guard that does not know how to rest. In Zen, this clinging is understood through the teaching of impermanence. Everything changes, including sensations, emotions, and thoughts. But the mind resists this truth. At night, when the world becomes quiet, impermanence feels more visible. The mind responds by tightening its grip. There was a woman named Emily who described her nights as negotiations with her own thoughts. As soon as she lay down, her mind would start listing unfinished tasks, unresolved conflicts, imagined disasters. She tried reasoning with herself, telling herself these thoughts could wait until morning. But the mind did not listen. Through Zen practice, Emily learned something unexpected. The mind does not cling because it wants answers. It clings because it fears uncertainty. When the lights go out, uncertainty becomes louder. The body is still. The future feels unknown. The mind tries to regain control by thinking ahead, replaying the past, and constructing stories. It believes that if it keeps thinking, nothing bad will surprise you. The Buddha observed that craving is not only about desire for pleasure, it is also the craving for certainty, safety, and control. At night, this craving becomes active. Zen does not teach you to eliminate craving by force. It teaches you to see it clearly. When you see how the mind grasps, the grip naturally softens. Tonight, notice how thoughts appear. Many of them begin with what if. What if something goes wrong? What if I made a mistake? What if I cannot handle tomorrow? These thoughts are not prophecies. They are attempts to stabilize an uncertain world. A Zen teacher once explained it like this: the mind builds nests out of thoughts. At night, it wants somewhere to sit. Understanding this changes your relationship with overthinking. Instead of asking, "How do I stop this?" you can ask, "What is the mind afraid of right now?" Often the answer is simple. It is afraid of letting go. There was a man named Thomas who struggled with insomnia for years. Every night he tried to force sleep. He counted hours, calculated how tired he would be the next day, and judged himself for not resting. His mind clung harder with every attempt to control it. Through Zen, Thomas learned a gentler approach. Instead of chasing sleep, he practiced allowing wakefulness. He stopped demanding that the night be different. Paradoxically, this softened the mind. Zen teaches that resistance strengthens what you resist. When you argue with your thoughts, you give them energy. When you observe them without feeding them, they naturally change. Try this practice now. As you breathe, bring attention to the body. Feel where it touches the bed or the chair. Notice the weight of your legs, the support beneath you. This grounds awareness in the present moment. Now notice a thought that wants your attention. Instead of following it, ask silently, is this happening now? Most nighttime thoughts are about something not occurring in this moment. This question is not meant to dismiss the thought, but to place it in time. When the mind sees that the danger is not immediate, it begins to relax. Zen also teaches the importance of trusting the body. The body knows how to sleep. It has done so for your entire life without instructions. When the mind interferes, sleep becomes effortful. A woman named Nora described her breakthrough this way. I stopped trying to fall asleep and started resting. Sleep came on its own. Resting does not mean thinking about resting. It means allowing the body to be as it is, even if sleep does not come immediately. This permission calms the nervous system, which in turn quiets the mind. The Buddha taught mindfulness of the body as a refuge. When thoughts become loud, return to sensation, the feeling of breath in the nose, the rise of the belly, the warmth of the hands. Sensation lives in the present. Thoughts often do not. Another reason the mind clings at night is habit. Overthinking becomes a conditioned response. Night after night, the mind learns that bed is the place for worrying. Zen reminds us that habits are learned and can be gently unlearned. This does not happen overnight. It happens through consistency and patience. Each night you practice observing rather than engaging. You weaken the habit. Each night you return to the body. You teach the mind a new way to be. Impermanence works in your favor. No thought lasts forever. Even the most persistent worry changes if you stop feeding it. There is a Zen image of a bell ringing. When struck, the sound arises, vibrates, and fades. Thoughts are like this, but when you keep striking the bell by thinking about the thought, the sound seems endless. Tonight, allow the bell to ring once and fade. If a thought returns, let it ring again, without frustration. Your role is not to silence the bell, but to stop striking it. Place attention on the pause between breaths. There is a moment after the exhale where nothing is required. Rest there if you can. This pause mirrors the space between thoughts. The Buddha taught that peace is found not by adding something new, but by removing clinging. When the grip loosens, calm appears naturally. As you listen to these words, you may feel moments of quiet, followed by thoughts returning. This is not failure. This is the rhythm of the mind settling. In Zen, patience is considered a deep form of wisdom. You are learning to trust a process older than your thoughts. Tonight, you do not need to understand everything. You do not need to fix your mind. You only need to recognize why it clings and meet it with kindness. The mind clings because it is tired, because it is afraid, because it wants to help. When you stop fighting it, it learns to rest. In the next teaching, we will explore how to stay with the body when the mind pulls you into stories, and how physical awareness becomes a doorway into deep nighttime calm. For now, stay with the breath, stay with sensation. Let thoughts pass like visitors who do not need to be entertained. The night does not ask you to solve it. It only asks you to be here. The third teaching, returning to the body when the mind wanders. Have you ever noticed that when overthinking takes over at night, your body almost disappears? You are lying in bed, but awareness is no longer with the weight of your body, the warmth of the blanket, or the rhythm of your breathing. It is trapped inside stories, replaying conversations, rehearsing futures, revisiting old pain. The body is here, but the mind has left. Zen begins the third teaching by gently bringing you back. The Buddha taught that the body is the first home of awareness. Before ideas, before worries, before memories, there is sensation. The body is always in the present moment. The mind often is not. When overthinking becomes overwhelming, it is because awareness has been pulled away from the body and lost in thought. This teaching is not about ignoring the mind. It is about giving awareness somewhere more stable to rest. At night, the body is asking for rest, but the mind keeps moving. Zen understands this conflict deeply. Instead of choosing sides, it offers a bridge. That bridge is embodied awareness. There was a man named Alex who described his nights as feeling trapped in his head. He said it felt like living in a small room with no windows, filled with noise. When he tried meditation, he thought he needed to stop thinking. This only made the room feel tighter. A Zen teacher offered him a different instruction. Do not chase thoughts, feel your feet. At first, this seemed too simple to matter, but Alex tried it. Lying in bed, when thoughts began racing, he brought attention to the soles of his feet. The pressure, the warmth, the subtle tingling. Something unexpected happened. The thoughts did not vanish, but they loosened. The room felt larger. This is the power of the body. The Buddha taught mindfulness of the body as a refuge. When the mind becomes restless, the body offers grounding. Sensation anchors awareness in what is real and immediate. Right now, notice where your body is supported. The mattress, the chair, the floor beneath your feet. Feel gravity holding you. You do not have to hold yourself up. The earth is already doing that. Overthinking often comes with a sense of floating, of being uncontained. Returning to the body restores a sense of being held. Zen uses the breath as a primary doorway into the body, not as something to control, but as something to feel. The breath moves on its own. You are not breathing. Breathing is happening. This is important. When you try to control the breath, the mind stays in charge. When you feel the breath, awareness drops into the body. Place attention at the point where the breath is most vivid for you. The nose, the chest, the belly. Choose one place and stay with it gently. Thoughts will interrupt. That is expected. When they do, you are not failing. You are noticing. Each noticing is a return. There was a woman named Mira who struggled with panic at night. Her thoughts told her something was wrong with her body. Her heart feels strange. Her breathing feels shallow. These thoughts created fear, which intensified the sensations. Through Zen practice, Mira learned to meet sensation without interpretation. Instead of labeling a sensation as dangerous, she felt it directly. The tightness, the heat, the movement. When sensation is met without story, it often changes on its own. The body responds to attention with relaxation. The Buddha taught that suffering arises not from sensation, but from the story we tell about sensation. When the story stops, the suffering softens. This does not mean sensations always disappear. It means they stop being enemies. At night, the mind often scans the body for problems. Zen invites you to reverse this habit. Instead of scanning for danger, scan for presence. Begin at the crown of the head. Notice any sensation there, then move slowly down. The face, the jaw, the neck, shoulders, arms, hands, torso, legs, feet. Do not try to relax anything. Simply notice. Awareness itself has a calming effect. This body scan is not a technique to force sleep. It is a way of coming home. A Zen teacher once said, "When you live in your head, you worry. When you live in your body, you rest. The body does not plan tomorrow. It does not revisit yesterday. It exists only now. This is why embodied awareness is so powerful at night. Overthinking feeds on abstraction. Sensation is concrete. Another reason the body is important is that the nervous system lives there. When the body feels safe, the mind follows. Slow, natural breathing sends a signal of safety. Feeling the weight of the body sends a signal of support. Warmth sends a signal of care. You do not need to convince yourself you are safe. You can let the body show the mind. There was a man named Jacob who spent years fighting insomnia. He tried supplements, routines, strict schedules. Nothing worked. A Zen practitioner suggested something radical. Stop trying to sleep. Start listening to your body. Jacob began lying in bed with no goal. He placed one hand on his belly, one on his chest. He followed the movement of breath. When thoughts came, he returned to touch and sensation. At first, sleep did not come, but something else did. Rest. The body softened, the tension in his chest eased, and often, sleep followed quietly, without effort. Zen emphasizes effortlessness. Forcing creates resistance. Allowing creates ease. If tonight you feel frustration because sleep is not arriving, notice where that frustration lives in the body. Is it in the chest, the throat, the jaw? Feel it without judgment. Judgment tightens, attention softens. The Buddha taught that awareness itself is healing. When you bring kind attention to the body, you are practicing compassion. Many people think compassion is something you direct toward emotions or thoughts. Zen reminds us that the body deserves compassion too. Your body has carried you through every day of your life. It holds your history. It responds to stress, joy, fear, and love. At night, it asks for gentleness. Another Zen image describes the mind as a wild horse and the body as the stable. When the horse runs, you do not chase it across the fields. You return it to the stable. The body is that stable. If thoughts pull you away again, gently return, not with irritation, but with patience. Each return strengthens the habit of embodied presence. You may notice moments when awareness rests in the body and thoughts fade into the background. These moments may be brief. That is enough. Do not cling to calm. Clinging creates tension. Let calm come and go as it wishes. The practice is simply this: feel what is here. Zen does not promise a mind without thoughts. It promises a way to live with thoughts without suffering. As the night deepens, let awareness sink lower into the body. Feel the heaviness of the legs, the softness of the belly, the warmth in the hands. Allow gravity to do the work. Allow the bed to support you. If sleep comes, let it come. If it does not, rest in presence. The body knows how to rest even when the mind is busy. In the next teaching, we will explore how to relate to emotions that arise at night and how observing feeling tones further quiets overthinking. For now, stay with sensation. Stay with breath. Stay with the simple truth of being here. Nothing else is required. The fourth teaching: meeting emotions without being carried away. Have you ever noticed that at night, thoughts are rarely just thoughts? They come with feelings. A tightness in the chest, a heaviness behind the eyes, a quiet sadness that has no clear story, or a sudden wave of fear that seems to come from nowhere. You may tell yourself to calm down, to be rational, but the feeling does not listen. Zen understands this deeply. Overthinking at night is often fueled not by ideas, but by emotions that have not been fully felt. During the day, emotions are often postponed. You stay functional. You stay composed. You push feelings aside to get through meetings, conversations, responsibilities. At night, When the body slows down, what was postponed asks to be seen. The Buddha taught that emotions are not problems to solve. They are experiences to be known. In Zen, emotions are treated like weather. They arise due to conditions. They change. They pass. Suffering begins when we believe we should not be feeling what we are feeling. There was a woman named Hannah who described her nights as emotionally heavy. Her thoughts were not always clear worries. Sometimes it was just a dull ache, a sense of loneliness that felt larger in the dark. She tried distracting herself, scrolling on her phone, replaying shows she had already seen. The ache remained. Through Zen practice, Hannah learned something simple and radical. Instead of asking, "How do I get rid of this feeling?" she asked, "Where is it in my body?" One night, when the familiar sadness appeared, she placed her attention in her chest. She felt a warmth, a pressure, a slow pulsing sensation. She stayed with it. She did not explain it. She did not judge it. She simply allowed it to be there. To her surprise, the sadness softened, not because it disappeared, but because it was no longer resisted. The Buddha taught that feeling tone is the bridge between sensation and thought. Every experience carries a tone, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. At night, the mind often reacts strongly to unpleasant feeling tones, trying to escape them through thinking. This is where overthinking gains momentum. Zen invites you to interrupt this cycle by staying with the feeling itself. Right now, notice what feeling is present, not the story, the feeling. Is it heavy or light, tight or loose, warm or cool, stable or moving? You do not need to name it with words like sadness or fear. Naming can sometimes pull you back into thinking. Instead, feel it directly. This practice is called feeling without adding. There was a man named Robert who struggled with anger at night. During the day, he held it together. At night, his mind replayed injustices, arguments, moments where he felt dismissed or disrespected. His thoughts felt sharp, aggressive, restless. A Zen teacher guided him to feel the anger in his body. At first, Robert resisted. He was afraid the anger would overwhelm him. But he tried. He noticed heat in his stomach, tension in his jaw, a buzzing energy in his arms. He stayed with these sensations without acting on them, without judging them. The anger changed. It did not explode. It did not disappear instantly. It transformed into a kind of tiredness, then into sadness, then into relief. Zen teaches that emotions move when allowed. They stagnate when resisted. The Buddha never taught emotional suppression. He taught awareness. At night, when emotions arise, the practice is not to analyze them, but to be present with them. Place one hand on your heart or your belly. This physical contact grounds awareness. It tells the nervous system you are here. Breathe naturally. Feel the rise and fall beneath your hand. Now, gently allow the emotion to exist without needing to be fixed. You can silently say, "This too belongs." This simple phrase can soften resistance. Many people fear that if they allow emotions, they will drown in them. Zen offers a different truth. Awareness is larger than any emotion. You are not stepping into the feeling, you are holding it. A Zen image describes awareness as a bowl and emotions as water. No matter how much water is poured in, the bowl remains. There was a woman named Clara who experienced waves of anxiety at night. Her heart would race. Her breath would feel shallow. Her mind would tell her something terrible was about to happen. She tried controlling her breathing, forcing calm. This made the anxiety worse. Through practice, Clara learned to do the opposite. She allowed the anxiety to be there. She felt the racing heart. She felt the fluttering breath. She stayed present. The anxiety peaked and then gradually settled. Her body learned that it was safe to feel without panicking. The Buddha taught that fear feeds on avoidance. When you stop running, fear loses its power. Zen does not promise that emotions will never arise. It promises that you can meet them without losing yourself. Another key teaching is impermanence. Emotions feel permanent when you are inside them. But if you observe closely, they are constantly changing. Notice the edges of the feeling. Is it steady or pulsing? Does it move? Does it shift with the breath? This noticing brings curiosity instead of fear. Curiosity creates space. At night, when emotions arise, you are often tired. Fatigue lowers emotional resilience. Zen reminds you to be gentle. This is not the time for self-criticism. The Buddha taught compassion as a foundation of practice. Compassion is not something you add. It is how you meet what is already here. You can offer yourself simple phrases silently. May I be gentle with this moment. May I allow what I feel. May I rest. These phrases are not affirmations. They are gestures of kindness. There was a man named Leo who felt deep regret at night. Memories of past mistakes surfaced repeatedly. His thoughts told him he had ruined his life. The regret felt like a weight in his chest. Through Zen, Leo learned to feel the regret without believing its story. He noticed the heaviness. He noticed the ache. He allowed it. Over time, something softened. The regret transformed into grief, then into acceptance. He realized that the feeling was asking for acknowledgement, not punishment. Zen teaches that emotions are messages, not verdicts. When you meet them with awareness, they complete themselves. Another important aspect of this teaching is non-identification. Feeling an emotion does not mean you are that emotion. You can say silently, there is sadness, not I am sad. There is fear, not I am afraid. This language reminds you of the observer you discovered in earlier teachings. The observer can hold emotion without becoming it. At night, when emotions feel intense, remember that the nervous system responds to presence. When you stay with sensation and feeling, the body often moves toward balance. You do not need to rush this. Trust the process. If an emotion feels too strong, return to the body. Feel your feet. Feel the support beneath you. Grounding keeps awareness steady. Zen practice is always balanced. Feeling without grounding can be overwhelming. Grounding without feeling can become avoidance. Together, they create safety. As the night deepens, emotions may come in waves. Let them come. Let them go. You are not behind because you feel deeply. You are human. The Buddha taught that liberation does not mean becoming numb. It means becoming free in the midst of feeling. In the next teaching, we will explore how to watch thoughts and emotions together as passing phenomena, and how this integrated awareness further quiets the mind at night. For now, stay with feeling, stay with breath, stay with kindness. Nothing you feel is wrong. Nothing you feel needs to be rushed away. The night is spacious enough to hold it all. The fifth teaching, watching thoughts and feelings rise and fall together. Have you ever noticed how a single thought at night can pull an emotion behind it like a shadow? A memory appears, and suddenly there is sadness. A worry arises, and fear tightens the body. Then the emotion feeds the thought, and the thought strengthens the emotion. Soon you are caught in a loop that feels impossible to escape. Zen calls this the wheel of reactivity. The Buddha taught that thoughts and feelings are not separate experiences. They arise together, support each other, and dissolve together. When you try to work with only one, the other continues to pull you back into the cycle. This fifth teaching is about seeing the whole movement clearly. At night, overthinking feels powerful because it is supported by emotion, and emotion feels overwhelming because it is narrated by thought. Zen does not ask you to break this connection by force. It asks you to observe the entire process as it unfolds. There was a man named Oliver who described his nights as mental storms. A thought would appear, "I am falling behind in life," and immediately a heaviness would fill his chest. That heaviness would then trigger another thought, "I will never catch up," which intensified the feeling. He felt trapped between thinking and feeling. A Zen teacher invited him to try something different. Instead of chasing the content of the thought or resisting the emotion, simply watch the sequence. One night, when the familiar loop began, Oliver noticed the first thought. He did not argue with it. He noted, thinking. Then he noticed the feeling that followed. He noted heaviness. He stayed present. Something subtle happened. By seeing both clearly, he was no longer inside the loop. He was watching it. This is a key insight in Zen. What you can observe cannot trap you. The Buddha described experience as a flow of events, not a fixed story. Thought arises. Feeling arises. Awareness knows them. Awareness remains. When you identify with the content of thoughts and feelings, they feel permanent and personal. When you observe them as movements, they reveal their temporary nature. Try this practice now. As you rest, notice the next thought that appears. Do not follow its story. Simply recognize, thought is present. Then notice the feeling that accompanies it. Is it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? Feel it in the body. Now stay with both, without choosing sides. You are not pushing either away. You are not pulling either closer. You are simply allowing awareness to include both. This inclusion changes everything. There was a woman named Sophia who struggled with guilt at night. Thoughts about past decisions would surface, followed by a sinking feeling in her stomach. She believed this guilt was a sign that she needed to punish herself mentally to become better. Through Zen practice, Sophia learned to watch guilt as a process rather than a verdict. She noticed the thought, "I should have known better." She noticed the tightness in her stomach. She watched how one fed the other. Over time, she saw something clearly. The guilt rose, peaked, and faded when it was not fed with more thinking. It was not endless, it was dynamic. This understanding softened her relationship with herself. Zen teaches that awareness brings clarity, and clarity brings freedom. At night, when the mind tells stories, it often feels like you must resolve them before you can rest. Zen offers a different wisdom. You do not need to finish the story to rest. You only need to stop identifying with the storyteller. The observer you have been discovering does not interfere. It witnesses. This witnessing creates space. Notice how thoughts often demand engagement. They say, "Pay attention to me, solve me, judge me." When you do not respond, they lose momentum. Emotions also seek reaction. Fear wants reassurance. Sadness wants explanation. Anger wants expression. Zen does not deny these needs, but it teaches that awareness itself is a form of response. When you feel fully seen by awareness, the system relaxes. Another Zen image describes thoughts and emotions as guests arriving at your house at night. You do not need to entertain them all. You can let them sit quietly while you rest. There was a man named Peter who feared that if he stopped engaging with his thoughts, something important would be missed. His mind told him that nighttime thinking was necessary preparation. Through practice, Peter learned to distinguish urgency from habit. Most nighttime thoughts felt urgent, but were not. When he observed them without engaging, he noticed that truly important matters returned naturally during the day. Zen trusts natural intelligence. The Buddha taught that wisdom arises from stillness, not agitation. When the mind rests, clarity emerges on its own. This does not mean you suppress thoughts or emotions. Suppression pushes them underground. Observation allows them to complete themselves. As you watch thoughts and feelings rise and fall together, you may notice gaps, moments where neither is dominant. These gaps are not created, they are revealed. Rest in these gaps when they appear. You may also notice that the mind tries to comment on the practice. Am I doing this right? Why is this not working? This too is just another thought, accompanied by a feeling. Include it, observe it, let it pass. Zen practice is not about reaching a special state. It is about staying with what is happening without adding extra layers. At night, simplicity is especially powerful. If you feel overwhelmed, return to the breath and body as anchors. Awareness needs stability to observe without being swept away. Feel the rise and fall of the breath. Feel the support beneath you. Then open awareness to thoughts and feelings again. This balance keeps the practice gentle. The Buddha taught that insight comes from seeing clearly again and again. Each time you observe without identification, you weaken old patterns. Overthinking loses strength when it is no longer believed. Emotions lose intensity when they are no longer resisted. Together, they soften. As the night continues, you may drift in and out of sleep. Awareness may fade and return. This is natural. Even moments of drowsiness are part of the practice. Let them come. Zen does not separate practice from rest. Rest is practice. In the next teaching, we will explore the space between thoughts and how silence itself becomes a teacher at night. For now, stay as the observer, watching thought, feeling emotion, allowing both to rise and fall like waves on a wide ocean. The ocean is not disturbed by its waves, neither are you. The sixth teaching, entering the space between thoughts. Have you ever noticed that even on the busiest night, when thoughts seem endless, there are tiny moments when no thought is present? They may be brief, almost unnoticeable, but they exist. A pause between one thought and the next. A quiet moment before a new worry forms. A soft gap after an exhale. Zen teaches that these moments are not accidents. They are doorways. Most people never notice them because the mind moves too quickly. It is trained to jump from one thought to the next, filling every space with commentary. At night, when overthinking takes over, it feels as if the mind never stops. But Zen invites you to look more closely. The Buddha taught that silence is not something you create, it is something you discover. Silence already exists beneath thought, the way the sky exists behind clouds. When you stop chasing the clouds, the sky reveals itself. There was a woman named Irene who believed her mind was incapable of silence. She said her thoughts were like a non-stop conversation she could not leave. When she first heard about the space between thoughts, she felt frustrated. She said she never experienced it. A Zen teacher gently corrected her. You experience it all the time, you just do not recognize it. The teacher asked her to listen to the sound of a bell. When the bell rang, Irene heard the sound clearly. When it faded, there was silence. The teacher asked, "Did you notice the silence or only the sound?" Irene realized she had only been paying attention to what was loud. Thoughts are loud. Silence is subtle. Zen practice sharpens sensitivity to what is subtle. Tonight, as you rest, bring attention to the breath. Notice the inhale. Notice the exhale. Now notice the pause after the exhale, before the next inhale begins. This pause is natural. You do not need to force it. Rest your awareness there for a moment. That pause is a form of silence. Another place to find silence is after a thought ends. A thought arises, plays out, and dissolves. Before the next one forms, there is a brief openness. That openness is not empty, it is aware. There was a man named Samuel who struggled with obsessive thinking at night. His mind jumped rapidly from topic to topic. When he tried to watch the space between thoughts, he felt discouraged. The gaps felt too small. His teacher offered a simple instruction. Do not look for long silence. Look for brief relief. One night, Samuel noticed a thought end. For a fraction of a second, there was nothing to grasp. He felt a slight sense of ease. Then another thought appeared. Instead of feeling disappointed, he acknowledged the ease. Over time, those moments became easier to notice. Zen teaches that what you appreciate grows. The space between thoughts is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It is quiet, neutral, and often overlooked. But it carries deep peace. The Buddha referred to this peace as the unconditioned, not produced by effort, not dependent on circumstances. At night, when the mind is tired, it becomes easier to glimpse this space, but only if you stop demanding something from it. Silence cannot be forced. The moment you try to create silence, you are thinking. Zen invites a softer approach. Let thoughts come. Let thoughts go. Notice what remains when they pass. Another Zen image describes thoughts as footsteps in snow. When someone walks by, the snow is disturbed. When they leave, the snow settles. The stillness was always there. Your mind is like this. There was a woman named Julia who found silence through listening. At night, instead of focusing inward, she listened to the quiet sounds around her. A distant car, the hum of a refrigerator, the sound of her own breathing. Between sounds, there was silence. She realized that silence was not the absence of sound. It was the background in which sound appeared. Thoughts are the same. Silence is the background. This understanding changes your relationship with overthinking. You no longer need to stop thoughts to find peace. You only need to recognize what is present when thoughts are not. The Buddha taught noble silence. This does not mean never speaking. It means resting in awareness without unnecessary mental chatter. At night, noble silence becomes a refuge. You can practice this gently. As you lie down, allow thoughts to appear. Do not chase them. Do not push them away. When a thought ends, notice the stillness that follows, even if it lasts only a heartbeat. Rest there. If another thought comes, that is fine. Notice it. Then notice the stillness again. This is not concentration. It is relaxation into what is already happening. There was a man named Victor who feared silence. When his mind quieted, he felt uneasy, as if something were missing. Through Zen, he learned that this unease was habit, not danger. His mind was used to noise. Silence felt unfamiliar. With practice, silence became comforting. It felt like coming home. The Buddha taught that true peace is not excitement or pleasure. It is ease. At night, when you find even a small pocket of ease, let yourself stay there without analysis. Do not ask how long it will last. Do not compare it to previous nights. Comparison pulls you back into thinking. Zen emphasizes immediacy. This moment is enough. Another way to touch silence is through the body. When you rest attention in sensation without naming it, the mind naturally quiets. Sensation does not require commentary. Feel the weight of your body. Feel the warmth. Feel the breath. Between sensations, there is space. Silence is spacious. Many people believe silence means emptiness or nothingness. Zen clarifies that silence is full of awareness, presence, and ease. It is not dull, it is alive. At night, when the world is quiet, silence is closer. You do not need to reach for it. The Buddha taught that awakening is not adding something new. It is removing ignorance. Not seeing silence is a form of ignorance. Once you see it, even briefly, you cannot completely forget it. Overthinking loses its grip when you know there is something deeper beneath it. If thoughts feel relentless tonight, do not fight them. Simply listen for what is underneath. Silence does not compete with thoughts. It includes them. There was a Zen saying, "When thoughts stop, silence remains. When thoughts continue, silence remains." This is the heart of the teaching. As the night continues, allow yourself to rest in this understanding. You do not need to achieve long stretches of silence. Even moments are enough. Each moment of silence nourishes the nervous system. It tells the mind that it is safe to rest. If sleep comes from this silence, let it come. If not, rest in awareness. The Buddha taught that peace is always available, but rarely noticed. Tonight, you are learning to notice. In the next teaching, we will explore how letting go of control allows the mind to settle naturally, and why effort often keeps overthinking alive. For now, listen, feel, rest. Between thoughts, between breaths, between moments, silence is already here. The seventh teaching, letting go of control and allowing the mind to settle. Have you ever noticed that the harder you try to fall asleep, the farther sleep seems to move away from you? You close your eyes and tell yourself it must happen now. You calculate how many hours you have left. You pressure your body to rest and your mind to be quiet. And somehow, everything tightens. Zen begins this teaching with a gentle truth. Control is often the very thing that keeps the mind awake. At night, overthinking is frequently fueled by effort. The effort to fix the mind, the effort to solve life, the effort to become calm. But the Buddha taught that peace does not come from forcing the mind into silence. It comes from releasing the need to manage what is already unfolding. This teaching can feel unsettling at first. If you are not controlling the mind, then what are you doing? Zen answers quietly. You are allowing. There was a man named Andrew who believed that discipline was the solution to his restless nights. He had strict routines, strict rules, and strict expectations of himself. When his mind wandered, he scolded it. When sleep did not come, he blamed himself. Through Zen practice, Andrew discovered something surprising. His mind was not disobedient, it was exhausted. One evening, instead of trying to sleep, he gave himself permission to be awake. He lay in bed and told himself, "It is allowed to be like this. Nothing needs to change right now." For the first time in months, his body softened. The mind did not immediately become quiet, but the struggle ended. And eventually, sleep arrived quietly, without announcement. The Buddha taught that clinging takes many forms. We often think of clinging as attachment to pleasure or possessions, but clinging to control is just as powerful. At night, the mind clings to the idea that it must do something to deserve rest. Zen reveals a deeper truth. Rest does not need to be earned. The natural state of the body is rest. The natural state of the mind is clarity. When these do not appear, it is usually because something is being forced. Zen uses the metaphor of muddy water. If you shake it, it stays cloudy. If you leave it alone, it clears on its own. Your mind is the same. Letting go of control does not mean giving up. It means trusting a deeper intelligence that already knows how to settle. There was a woman named Elena who struggled with nighttime anxiety. She tried calming techniques, breathing patterns, mental instructions. Each technique worked briefly, then failed. Her frustration grew. A Zen teacher told her, "Stop trying to calm yourself. Let yourself be anxious." This felt frightening, but Elena tried it. When anxiety appeared, she stopped trying to change it. She let it be there while staying present with her breath and body. Something unexpected happened. Without resistance, the anxiety peaked and then slowly declined. The body learned it did not need to stay on high alert. The Buddha taught that what you resist persists, what you allow transforms. At night, control often shows up as mental commentary. Am I doing this right? Why is my mind still active? I should be calmer by now. These thoughts are subtle forms of pressure. Zen invites you to drop the commentary. If a thought arises, let it arise. If the mind is busy, let it be busy. If the body is restless, let it be restless. This does not mean you abandon awareness. You remain present, but without an agenda. Awareness without agenda is freedom. Try this now. As you breathe, do not aim for calm. Simply feel the breath as it is. If it is shallow, feel shallow. If it is deep, feel deep. Notice how different this feels from trying to control the breath. Control creates tension. Allowing creates ease. There was a man named Kevin who realized that his overthinking was actually an attempt to control uncertainty. At night, when the future felt open and unknown, his mind tried to close it with plans and predictions. Through Zen, Kevin learned that uncertainty is not dangerous. It is simply reality. When he stopped trying to resolve the future at night, his mind gradually stopped insisting. The Buddha taught that craving for certainty is a source of suffering. Letting go of this craving opens the door to peace. At night, you do not need certainty. You need safety. Safety comes from presence, not from planning. Letting go of control also applies to practice itself. You do not need to meditate perfectly. You do not need to follow instructions flawlessly. Zen practice is forgiving. Every moment of awareness is enough. If you forget the practice and get lost in thought for 10 minutes, that is not failure. The moment you notice, you are practicing again. This noticing is not something you do. It is something that happens when control relaxes. Another Zen image describes holding a bird. If you grip it tightly, you harm it. If you hold it gently, it stays. Your mind is like this bird. When you grip with effort, it struggles. When you hold gently with awareness, it rests. At night, effort often disguises itself as responsibility. I must sleep. I must be rested. I must be better tomorrow. These thoughts feel practical, but they create pressure. Zen invites you to set these burdens down for the night. You can say silently, "Nothing is required of me right now." Let this sentence sink into the body. Notice if the shoulders soften. Notice if the jaw releases. Notice if the breath deepens on its own. These are signs of letting go. There was a woman named Naomi who described her nights as battles. She fought her mind every evening. Through Zen, she reframed the night as a refuge. She stopped treating nighttime as a problem to solve and started treating it as a space to rest in awareness. Sleep became a byproduct, not a goal. The Buddha taught the middle way, not forcing, not avoiding, simply being with what is. Letting go of control does not mean you stop caring. It means you care without gripping. This distinction is subtle but powerful. If you feel fear about letting go, notice that fear too. Fear often arises when old strategies are questioned. Meet it with kindness. You are not losing control. You are discovering trust. Trust in the body. Trust in awareness. Trust in the natural settling of things. At night, when you release control, the mind often wanders briefly before resting. This wandering is part of the settling process. Like a child who resists sleep for a moment before surrendering, the mind may move before becoming still. Allow this. Zen teaches patience not as endurance, but as confidence in the process. As the night continues, remind yourself gently, I do not need to make anything happen. If sleep comes, welcome it. If it does not, rest in presence. Both are acceptable. In the next teaching, we will explore how kindness toward yourself deepens this letting go, and how compassion quiets the inner critic that fuels overthinking. For now, loosen your grip. Let the mind be as it is. Let the night carry you without effort. Nothing is missing. Nothing is wrong. This moment is enough. The eighth teaching: softening the inner critic through compassion. Have you ever noticed that when the night becomes quiet, a familiar voice often grows louder inside you? It comments on your day. It judges your choices. It replays moments where you believe you failed or were not enough. This voice does not shout. It whispers with authority, as if it knows the truth about you. Zen recognizes this voice as one of the deepest causes of nighttime suffering. Not the mind itself, but the way the mind turns against itself. During the day, this inner critic is often masked by activity. At night, when distractions fall away, it steps forward. Overthinking becomes personal. Thoughts are no longer just ideas, they feel like verdicts. The Buddha taught that harshness toward oneself is a form of ignorance. Not moral ignorance, but misunderstanding the nature of the mind and heart. This teaching invites you to meet yourself with the same gentleness you would offer someone you love. There was a woman named Grace who described her nights as interrogations. As soon as she lay down, her mind began reviewing the day. Why did you say that? Why did you not do more? Why are you like this? Each question felt sharp and heavy. Grace believed this voice was necessary. She thought self-criticism kept her responsible and improving. Without it, she feared becoming careless or selfish. Through Zen practice, she learned something surprising. The critic did not make her better, it made her tired. One night, when the familiar voice arose, Grace tried something new. Instead of arguing or obeying it, she placed a hand on her chest and silently said, I am here with you. The critic did not disappear, but its tone softened. The Buddha taught loving kindness not as an emotion, but as an attitude, an orientation of the heart toward non-harm. Many people think loving kindness means feeling warm or positive. Zen clarifies that it begins with allowing yourself to exist without punishment. At night, the inner critic often believes it is protecting you. It points out flaws to prevent future pain, but it does not know when to rest. Zen invites you to thank this voice for its effort, without letting it dominate the night. Try this practice gently. When a self-critical thought appears, notice it as a thought, then notice the feeling that follows: tightness, shame, heaviness. Now bring kindness to the feeling, not to the thought. You do not need to convince the mind. You can soothe the body. Place a hand on the area where the feeling is strongest. Feel the warmth of your hand. Feel the contact. You can silently offer a simple phrase: May I be gentle with myself in this moment. This phrase is not a command. It is an invitation. There was a man named Daniel who felt deep shame at night. His thoughts told him he was behind in life, that others were more successful, more stable, more complete. He tried motivating himself with harsh self-talk. It only increased his anxiety. Through Zen, Daniel learned to recognize shame as a feeling tone, not an identity. When shame arose, he felt it in his body. A sinking sensation, a heat in the face. Instead of reinforcing it with more thinking, he stayed with the sensation and offered kindness. The shame loosened its grip. The Buddha taught that the heart has a natural capacity for compassion. When you remove judgment, compassion flows on its own. At night, compassion becomes especially important because the mind is tired. A tired mind cannot benefit from criticism. It needs care. Zen teaches that kindness quiets the nervous system. When the body feels cared for, the mind stops scanning for danger. The inner critic is often a survival strategy learned long ago. Perhaps it kept you alert. Perhaps it kept you accepted. Perhaps it kept you safe. You do not need to eliminate it. You only need to stop letting it run the night. Another Zen image describes the mind as a crying child. When ignored or scolded, the child cries louder. When held with patience, the child calms. Your inner critic often masks vulnerability. Beneath it lives fear, sadness, or longing. Compassion meets what is beneath the criticism. There was a woman named Leah who believed she did not deserve kindness. At night, when regrets surfaced, she told herself she had brought it upon herself. Zen practice slowly revealed how deeply she was hurting. Her teacher guided her to treat herself as she would treat a close friend. When a critical thought arose, she asked, "Would I say this to someone I love?" The answer was always no. This realization softened something in her chest. Zen does not teach indulgence. It teaches understanding. Understanding that cruelty toward yourself does not produce wisdom. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from ignorance. One form of ignorance is believing that harshness leads to growth. Growth comes from clarity. Clarity comes from calm. Calm comes from kindness. At night, when the critic appears, you can say silently, "This voice is not the whole truth." You do not need to replace it with positive thinking. Zen does not require affirmations. It requires presence. Presence allows thoughts to be seen without believing them. You might notice resistance to kindness. A voice may say, "This is weakness. This is avoidance. This is unnecessary." Notice that voice too. Resistance often appears when old habits are questioned. Stay gentle. The Buddha taught patience as a parami, a perfection of the heart. Patience includes patience with yourself. You are not behind because your mind struggles at night. You are human. There was a man named Victor who judged himself for not being calm enough during meditation. At night, his mind replayed his perceived failures in practice. Zen revealed that even judging the practice was another form of thinking. He learned to include self-judgment in awareness without believing it. This inclusion softened the entire experience. At night, compassion can take very simple forms. A slow breath, a hand on the heart, a phrase offered quietly. You do not need elaborate rituals. Compassion is practical. Another way to practice compassion is through forgiveness. Not dramatic forgiveness, but moment-to-moment release. You can silently say, "I forgive myself for being human today." This is not a moral statement. It is a physiological one. The body relaxes when it hears forgiveness. The Buddha taught that liberation is not about becoming someone else. It is about stopping the war with who you are. At night, the inner critic often continues the war. Zen invites a ceasefire. Let tonight be a place where you do not have to improve. Let it be enough to rest. Compassion does not make you passive, it makes you resilient. When you are not attacking yourself, energy returns naturally. Overthinking loses fuel when the critic softens. Many thoughts persist because they are charged with self-judgment. Remove the judgment, and the thought loses intensity. As the night deepens, notice if kindness changes the quality of your thoughts. They may still arise, but they feel less sharp, less convincing. Kindness creates space. If sleep comes from this space, welcome it. If not, rest in gentleness. The Buddha taught that loving kindness begins with oneself and radiates outward. Without self-compassion, compassion for others becomes strained. At night, you are practicing the root. In the next teaching, we will explore how trust in impermanence allows even difficult nights to pass, and how remembering change brings relief when the mind feels stuck. For now, stay with kindness. Let the body feel held. Let the heart soften. You do not need to be fixed tonight. You only need to be allowed. The ninth teaching, trusting impermanence. When the night feels endless, have you ever been awake in the middle of the night with the feeling that this state will never end? The mind says you will always be like this, always tired, always restless, always trapped inside your thoughts. The night stretches long and heavy, and time feels distorted. Zen begins this teaching by gently reminding you of something the Buddha emphasized again and again. Everything that arises passes away, not as a comforting idea, but as a law of nature. Overthinking feels permanent when you are inside it. Emotions feel fixed. Sleeplessness feels like an identity, but this is an illusion created by fatigue and fear. Nothing in the mind remains unchanged. The Buddha called this truth impermanence, not as a philosophy, but as something to be observed directly. There was a man named Aaron who struggled with long nights of anxiety. When he could not sleep, panic would rise. His thoughts told him tomorrow would be ruined. His health would suffer. His life would unravel. What frightened him most was the feeling of being stuck. Through Zen practice, Aaron learned to watch change instead of predicting permanence. When anxiety arose, he stayed present long enough to notice something surprising. The intensity shifted. Sometimes it grew, sometimes it softened, sometimes it changed into something else entirely. It was never static. This observation weakened the belief that the night was endless. Zen teaches that suffering increases when we add always and never to our experience. Always anxious, never peaceful. These words freeze what is actually fluid. Impermanence brings movement back into view. Tonight, notice something simple. The breath changes on its own. One breath is not exactly like the next. Sensation shifts. Even discomfort moves if you watch closely. Thoughts too are impermanent. Even repetitive thoughts are not identical. They rise, peak, and fade. When you notice this, something relaxes. The mind no longer has to fight a frozen enemy. It is watching a moving process. There was a woman named Isabel who believed her sadness at night was permanent. She told herself she had always been sad and would always be sad. Zen practice helped her see sadness as waves, not as an ocean. One night, she noticed sadness in her chest. She stayed with it. After a while, it changed into tiredness, then into warmth, then into quiet. The sadness did not disappear forever, but it was not solid. The Buddha taught that seeing impermanence clearly weakens attachment. When you know something will change, you do not cling to it as tightly. At night, when overthinking feels relentless, remind yourself gently, this too is changing. This is not positive thinking, it is accurate seeing. Zen does not ask you to convince yourself that everything will be fine. It asks you to notice what is already happening. Change is already happening. Another way impermanence helps is by softening urgency. The mind often says, this must be solved now. Zen replies, nothing stays long enough to demand panic. There was a man named Lucas who felt intense pressure to resolve his thoughts before sleeping. He believed unresolved thoughts would poison his rest. Through practice, he learned that thoughts resolve themselves when not interfered with. They lose energy naturally. Impermanence teaches patience, not passive patience, but confident patience, confidence that no state lasts. Even wakefulness is impermanent. Even fatigue is impermanent. Even confusion is impermanent. At night, you may feel discouraged by previous nights of struggle. The mind uses memory to predict the future. Zen gently cuts this chain by returning you to direct observation. This night is not the same as the last night. This moment is not the same as the previous one. Feel your body now. Notice what is different from a few minutes ago. Perhaps the breath is slower. Perhaps the body feels heavier. Perhaps nothing obvious has changed. Even that is a change. The Buddha taught that wisdom grows when you see reality as movement rather than as fixed identity. Overthinking feels personal when you believe it defines you. Impermanence shows that it is an event, not a self. Another Zen image describes thoughts and emotions as visitors in a guest house. They arrive, they stay briefly, they leave. The house remains. You are the house. There was a woman named Maya who feared bad nights because she believed they meant regression. Zen practice helped her see that difficult nights are part of natural cycles. Some nights are restless, some are calm. Neither lasts. This understanding reduced fear. Fear feeds overthinking. When fear softens, the mind rests more easily. Impermanence also brings humility. You realize you do not need to control everything, because nothing stays long enough to require total control. Letting go becomes easier when you trust change. If tonight feels long, do not measure it against future nights. Stay with what is here. Notice change on a small scale. The rise of breath, the fall of breath, the shifting of sensation, the appearance and disappearance of thoughts. These are all teachings of impermanence happening now. Zen encourages you to make impermanence a lived experience, not a belief. When the mind says, "I cannot handle this anymore," ask quietly, is this moment the same as the last one? Often the answer is no. There is movement even inside difficulty. The Buddha taught that clinging creates suffering. One form of clinging is clinging to the idea that this moment will last forever. Impermanence loosens that grip. At night, you can practice trusting impermanence by doing less. Instead of trying to escape the moment, allow it to unfold. Watch it change. If restlessness is present, watch restlessness change. If calm appears, watch calm change too. Do not cling to calm. Do not resist restlessness. Both will pass. This balanced seeing creates equanimity. Equanimity is not indifference. It is steadiness in the face of change. The Buddha described equanimity as deep peace, born from understanding. As the night continues, you may drift towards sleep without noticing the moment it happens. This too is impermanence. Sleep arrives quietly when conditions are right. You do not need to force it. Trust that this night is moving. Trust that your experience is not frozen. If you wake again later, return to the same understanding. Nothing has gone wrong. Nothing is stuck. Everything is flowing. In the next teaching, we will explore how surrendering to this flow deepens rest, and how releasing resistance allows the night to carry you naturally. For now, stay with the truth of change. Stay with the breath. Stay with the gentle knowing that whatever this moment is, it will not last forever, and neither will you need it to. The 10th teaching: surrendering to the night and letting the body lead. Have you ever noticed that the moment you stop resisting the night, something inside you begins to soften? The clock may still show a late hour, thoughts may still drift through the mind, yet the struggle quietly fades. What remains is a sense of being carried rather than pushed. Zen calls this surrender. Not giving up, but giving over. The Buddha taught that suffering continues as long as we argue with reality. At night, reality is simple. The body is tired. The mind is active. Fighting either one creates tension. Allowing both creates rest. Many people misunderstand surrender. They imagine it means passivity or weakness. Zen reveals a different truth. Surrender is an act of deep intelligence. It is recognizing when effort is no longer helpful. There was a man named Paul who described his nights as battles. He fought sleep, he fought thoughts, he fought time. Each night felt like a test he was failing. Through Zen practice, Paul was invited to try something radical. Let the body decide. One night, instead of directing his attention to calming thoughts, he turned his awareness fully toward physical sensation. The heaviness of his limbs, the warmth under the blanket, the slow pull of gravity. He stopped asking the mind what it needed and started listening to the body. Something changed. The body began to lead. The mind followed. The Buddha taught that the body holds ancient wisdom. Long before language, long before planning, the body knew how to rest, digest, and recover. At night, the body remembers this wisdom. The mind often interferes. Surrender means stepping out of the way. Try this gently. As you rest, imagine that the body is sinking downward, not collapsing, but settling. Like sand, slowly sinking in water. There is no rush, no effort. Feel how the body wants to release its weight. You do not need to help it. Notice how surrender feels different from control. Control tightens, surrender spreads. There was a woman named Fiona who struggled with a constant sense of vigilance at night. Even when she was exhausted, her body remained alert. Her shoulders stayed tense, her jaw clenched, her breath shallow. Zen practice helped her recognize that vigilance was not a choice. It was a habit formed during years of stress. At night, her body did not know it was safe to rest. Instead of forcing relaxation, Fiona practiced reassurance. She placed a hand on her belly and silently said, "You can rest now." Night after night, she repeated this without expectation. Slowly, the body responded. Surrender is not an instant switch. It is a relationship built over time. The Buddha taught patience as a form of trust. Trust that when conditions are right, the body will rest. At night, the most powerful signal of safety is permission. Permission to be awake, permission to be tired, permission to not solve anything. When the body receives permission, it often releases tension on its own. Zen also teaches surrender to gravity. Gravity is always present, always holding you. You do not need to earn it. Feel gravity now. The downward pull, the steady support beneath you. Let yourself be held. There was a Zen master who said, "When you stop holding yourself up, the earth does the work." Overthinking often feels like mental holding worries, holding responsibility, holding identity. Surrender invites you to put these down for the night. You can say silently, "I will pick this up tomorrow if needed." This is not avoidance, it is timing. The Buddha taught wise effort, knowing when to act and when to rest. Night is for rest. Even if sleep does not come immediately, surrender creates deep rest. Rest that nourishes the nervous system. There was a man named Henry who measured his nights by hours slept. This created anxiety when sleep was delayed. Zen practice helped him shift focus from sleep to rest. He learned to recognize that lying quietly with awareness restored him more than restless struggling. Sleep eventually followed, but it was no longer the measure of success. Surrender also means trusting the rhythm of the night. Some nights are lighter, some are heavier. The body adjusts naturally when not interfered with. Zen does not promise perfect nights. It offers peace within imperfect ones. Another aspect of surrender is releasing the need to understand. The mind often wants explanations. Why am I like this? What is wrong with me? How do I fix this? At night, These questions exhaust rather than clarify. Zen invites you to leave questions unanswered until morning. Unanswered questions can rest. There was a woman named Clara who found relief when she stopped asking why. She told herself, "Tonight is not for understanding. Tonight is for being." This shift softened her entire experience. The Buddha taught that wisdom is not always cognitive. Sometimes wisdom is simply allowing life to move. Surrender allows the natural intelligence of the body to take over. If sleep comes, it comes. If wakefulness remains, rest remains too. There is dignity in resting without striving. As the night continues, you may notice moments where thoughts fade and sensation deepens, or moments where thoughts return. Both are acceptable. Surrender does not mean holding on to calm. It means allowing change. The body often enters sleep gradually, first through heaviness, then through warmth, then through drifting awareness. Do not watch for these signs. Let them happen. Watching becomes control. Surrender is trusting without monitoring. If fear arises about letting go, notice that fear gently. Fear often appears at the edge of change. Meet it with kindness. Place attention back in the body. The Buddha taught that safety is felt, not thought. Let the body feel safe. As this teaching settles, allow yourself to be carried by the night, like floating on water, not swimming, not sinking, simply floating. In the next teaching, we will explore how awakening is not something separate from sleep, and how awareness continues even as the mind rests. For now, let go. Let the body lead. Let the night unfold without resistance. You are allowed to rest exactly as you are. Nothing else is required. The 11th teaching. Awareness continues, even as the mind rests. Have you ever drifted towards sleep and then suddenly noticed yourself noticing it? The body feels heavy. Thoughts become softer, less organized. Images float without direction, and yet there is still a quiet knowing that all of this is happening. You are not fully asleep, not fully awake. You are somewhere in between. Zen pays close attention to this threshold. The Buddha taught that awareness does not disappear when thinking slows. It does not vanish when the mind rests. It simply changes its expression. At night, this becomes easier to see because the thinking mind loosens its grip. Many people believe awareness depends on effort. They think they must stay alert, focused, or intentional to be aware. Zen reveals something gentler. Awareness is already present. Effort only obscures it. There was a man named Jonah who feared falling asleep during meditation. He believed that awareness meant staying sharp. When drowsiness came, he thought he was failing. A Zen teacher reassured him. When the mind rests, awareness rests too. It does not disappear. It becomes quieter. One night, Jonah noticed something new. As he drifted towards sleep, thoughts became fragmented. Words lost meaning. Images appeared and dissolved. But there was still a sense of knowing. He knew he was drifting. He knew the body was heavy. This knowing did not require effort. The Buddha taught that consciousness continues even when thinking ceases. This is not mystical. It is experiential. At night, when overthinking loosens, you may notice this gentle awareness for the first time. Zen does not ask you to hold on to it. Holding creates tension. It asks you to trust it. Awareness is not fragile. There was a woman named Ruth who struggled with fear around sleep. She felt anxious at the moment of letting go. Something inside her resisted the loss of control that sleep represented. Through Zen, Ruth learned to rest in awareness as she drifted. She stopped trying to stay awake, or force sleep. She allowed herself to hover in the in-between. The fear softened. The Buddha taught that fear arises when we cling to identity. At the edge of sleep, identity loosens. This can feel threatening if you believe you are only your thoughts. Zen gently shows you otherwise. You are not lost when thoughts fade. You are still here. This teaching is especially important for overthinking minds. Overthinking creates the illusion that thinking is what keeps you safe. Letting go feels dangerous. Zen offers a quiet reassurance. Awareness remains. Try noticing this now. As you rest, allow the mind to become soft. Do not try to focus sharply. Let attention widen. Sounds, sensations, thoughts, all float in a gentle field. Notice that you are aware of this field without effort. This is awareness without strain. There was a Zen master who said, "When effort drops away, true seeing begins." At night, effort naturally drops. This is why nighttime can be such a powerful teacher. The Buddha taught mindfulness, not as concentration alone, but as clear knowing. Clear knowing does not require attention. When the mind rests, clear knowing remains. You may notice moments when thoughts pause, and there is simple presence. No commentary, no agenda, just being. This is not emptiness in a negative sense. It is fullness without noise. Many people try to hold on to these moments. They think if they can stay here, they will be free. Zen cautions against this. Holding creates effort. Effort brings the thinking mind back. Instead, let awareness be like an open sky. Clouds may come, clouds may go. The sky does not need to do anything. There was a man named Eli who became fascinated by the peaceful state before sleep. He tried to recreate it every night. This made his mind busy again. His teacher reminded him, "You cannot possess rest. You can only allow it." Once Eli stopped trying to hold the state, it returned naturally. The Buddha taught non-clinging as a path to peace. This applies even to peaceful experiences. At night, awareness may feel wide and soft, or it may fade into sleep quickly. Both are expressions of the same intelligence. Zen does not privilege wakefulness over sleep. Both are natural states. Sleep is not the absence of awareness. It is awareness resting deeply. You may not remember awareness during sleep, but it is not gone. This understanding reduces fear around letting go. Another Zen image describes awareness as a lamp in a room. When activity stops, the lamp does not turn off. The room simply becomes quiet. Your mind is the activity. Awareness is the lamp. As you drift, allow the lamp to remain without checking on it. Checking is thinking. Trust is resting. If you wake again later in the night, notice that awareness is immediately present. You do not need to create it. It is already there. This continuity shows you something important. Awareness is not dependent on effort, memory, or control. This is deeply reassuring for an overthinking mind. The Buddha taught that refuge is found in what does not change. Thoughts change, emotions change, sensations change. Awareness remains, not as an object, but as the space in which objects appear. At night, when the world is quiet, this space is easier to feel. You do not need to understand it intellectually. Simply notice it. If you feel drowsy, let drowsiness come. If sleep comes, let sleep come. Awareness does not need you to stay awake to exist. This is why Zen practitioners often say, sleep is also meditation. Not because you are practicing something, but because awareness is still present. As this teaching settles, you may feel a sense of safety around letting go. The fear of losing yourself softens. You are not disappearing, you are resting. The Buddha taught liberation not as escape from life, but as freedom within it. Sleep is part of life. Rest is part of wisdom. As the night deepens, allow awareness to become diffuse. Do not narrow it. Do not sharpen it. Let it be like a soft light filling the room. If thoughts appear, they appear. If they fade, they fade. You do not need to follow either. In the final teaching, we will explore how this understanding integrates into daily life, and how the observer you have discovered becomes a companion beyond the night. For now, rest in trust, rest in awareness. Let the mind sleep when it is ready. You are held even when you let go. The 12th teaching, carrying the observer into everyday life. Have you ever woken up after a night like this, feeling slightly different, even if you cannot explain why? Nothing dramatic changed. Your life is still waiting. Your responsibilities remain. And yet there is a quiet sense of space inside you, as if something loosened while you were not watching. Zen understands this moment well. The final teaching is not about the night itself. It is about what stays with you when morning comes. The Buddha taught that awakening is not an event reserved for meditation cushions or silent nights. It is a way of seeing that can walk with you into ordinary life. The observer behind your thoughts does not belong only to the dark hours. It belongs everywhere. During the night, the mind softens. Overthinking loses its grip. Awareness becomes easier to recognize. The danger is not losing this awareness. The danger is forgetting it exists. This teaching is about remembering. There was a man named Ethan who felt calm during meditation but overwhelmed during the day. He believed peace was something that happened only in special conditions. At work, in relationships, in traffic, his mind returned to its old habits. Zen showed him that awareness had never left. He had simply stopped noticing it. The observer you discovered at night is the same observer present when you drink your morning coffee, when you check your phone, when you feel irritated, when you feel joy. Awareness does not switch on and off. Attention does. The Buddha taught mindfulness not as constant focus, but as remembering to come back. During the day, thoughts move quickly. Emotions change rapidly. You may not have long, quiet spaces. That is fine. You do not need them. You only need moments. A single breath where you notice you are thinking. A single step where you feel your foot touch the ground. A single pause before reacting. These moments reconnect you with the observer. There was a woman named Anna who struggled with anxiety throughout the day. At night, she practiced observing her thoughts and felt relief. In the morning, anxiety returned. Instead of feeling discouraged, her teacher invited her to practice recognition. Whenever anxiety appeared, she asked silently, "Am I aware of this?" The answer was always yes. That yes was enough. She did not try to calm the anxiety. She did not analyze it. She recognized awareness. Over time, anxiety still appeared, but it no longer defined her. Zen teaches that suffering is not caused by experience, but by forgetting who is aware of experience. The observer does not remove difficulty. It changes your relationship to it. During the day, you will forget. This is not failure. Forgetting is part of being human. The practice is remembering again. You remember when you feel overwhelmed. You remember when you are lost in thought. You remember when you are reactive. Each remembering is awakening. The Buddha taught that enlightenment is not something you achieve once and keep forever. It is something you return to again and again. This makes the path gentle. There was a Zen saying, "Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water." Nothing extraordinary changes on the surface. Something fundamental changes underneath. You still think, you still plan, you still feel, but you are no longer trapped inside these movements. The observer walks with you. At night, the observer feels spacious. During the day, it may feel small or distant. Do not judge this. Awareness adapts to conditions. You do not need to protect it. You cannot lose it. Another Zen image describes awareness as a mirror. It reflects whatever appears: calm or chaos, joy or sorrow. The mirror does not choose. During the day, life throws many images at the mirror. The mirror remains unchanged. This is you. Overthinking at night taught you something important. Thoughts are not enemies. They are movements. When you stop fighting them, they soften. Carry this understanding into the day. When a thought says something unkind, notice it. When a thought rushes you, notice it. When a thought tells a story about who you are, notice it. You do not need to correct it. You do not need to argue. Noticing is enough. There was a man named Lucas who used to replay conversations endlessly. After learning to observe his thoughts at night, he began practicing during the day. When replaying started, he labeled it gently, thinking, "This simple act broke the spell." The thought lost its authority. Zen teaches that naming can create space when done without judgment. Another way to carry the observer into life is through the body. The body is always here. When the mind races, feel your feet. When emotions rise, feel your breath. When you feel disconnected, feel your hands. These small acts reconnect you with presence. The Buddha taught that the body is a doorway to liberation because it cannot live in the past or future. The observer loves doorways. You may notice that life still brings challenges. People still trigger you. Stress still appears. Zen does not promise immunity. What changes is how long you stay trapped. Instead of hours lost in overthinking, you may notice minutes. Instead of believing every story, you may question gently. Instead of reacting immediately, you may pause. These are signs of integration. Do not underestimate them. There was a woman named Sophie who expected transformation to feel dramatic. When it felt subtle, she worried she was not doing it right. Zen reminded her that subtle changes last. Quiet freedom is stable. The observer does not make you detached or cold. It makes you responsive instead of reactive. You still care. You still engage, but you are not consumed. This is compassion for yourself and others. When you are not trapped in your thoughts, you listen better. You respond more wisely. You suffer less unnecessarily. The Buddha taught that freedom begins within. This does not mean ignoring the world. It means meeting the world with clarity. At night, you practiced resting as awareness. During the day, you practice moving as awareness. Both are the same practice. If tomorrow night overthinking returns, you are not back at the beginning. You are continuing. Each night is different. Each day is different. Awareness remains. There is no final arrival point. Zen does not offer one. It offers a path that walks with you. As this final teaching settles, remember this: you are not trying to become the observer. You already are. You are simply learning to trust it. The night showed you what is possible when the mind rests. The day will teach you how to live from that place. Go gently. Remember often. Forget and remember again. This is the path. This is the practice. And when the night comes again, you know where to rest. Not in thought, not in struggle, but in the quiet presence that has been with you all along. Closing. Resting in what has always been here. Now the night is quiet again. Thoughts may still appear. Sensations may still shift. Sleep may come soon, or it may take its time. None of this needs to be controlled. What matters is this: You have seen for yourself that behind every thought, every feeling, every restless moment, there is something steady that knows, an awareness that does not rush, an observer that does not judge, a presence that does not leave when the mind becomes loud. This presence is not something you created tonight. It has always been here. You simply paused long enough to notice it. You do not need to carry these teachings as ideas. Let them live as gentle reminders. When the mind races, remember you can watch. When emotions rise, remember you can feel without drowning. When control tightens, remember you can release. Peace does not come from fixing the night. It comes from trusting what holds you through it. So tonight, and on other nights to come, allow yourself to rest in this simple truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the space that knows them. If sleep arrives, welcome it. If wakefulness stays, let it be quiet and kind. And if these words have helped you find even a small pocket of ease, you are always welcome to return, to listen again, and to sit with this calm presence whenever the mind feels heavy. Nothing more is required. You are already home,